Thank you, music team. Wow. You guys get to swim in this every week. And Brian, I know you're going to be watching this. I'm looking right at you. Dude, you were right. Wow. You can't help but feel the energy of love in this space. Do you agree? You walk in, the music, the sounds, the hug, the touching, the seeing one another. It is love. You are love. And it's so easy to be right here. So I know I need to move on to a talk, but I had to just spin into this moment with you there for a minute. It's so empowering to just be here among such love-centered people. And yes, this past Thursday, for those of you that were here, we did celebrate Reverend Brian and Reverend Kristen's wedding, and what a joy. Let's just celebrate. You know, two best friends and Ryan, my dear brother, and such heart-centered people that are seeking the highest good. And, you know, Brian and I, for the last 3 years since he's been here, talk quite often about, Doug, the love. Tell me more, Brian. He goes, it's the love. The love. It's here. So I knew it, but actually coming in to feel it energetically, it's powerful. Now, I know that many of you have been here before, haven't you? Let me see a show of hands if you've been here before. Okay, most everyone. Any very first time guest here today besides me and Troy? Yeah? Okay. But I want to invite you into an opportunity. I want to invite you into the opportunity that this is your first time here. This moment that we are together is brand new. Would you agree? Brand new. So I know, if you're like I am, I know my seat and where I go in church every Sunday, and I know we have our spots, but I want to invite you into this brand new experience. Yes, we've been here before. Now, for me, not so much, but for you, many times. But every moment in our lives is an open Christ opportunity to be brand new, just pregnant with possibilities, pregnant with opportunities to walk in, to be in maybe the same place, but to look around and see it all new. We get so busy. I had a little bit of a tear there from that experience with the music, Jody, so I'm still coming back from that. Every moment in our lives in this noisy world, you know what I'm talking about. It's loud. It's gotten noisier, even since I was a kid. You know, we used to have the 3 channels, NBC, ABC, and CBS for certain times of the day, wake up Saturday morning and pray that there's more than an hour of cartoons. But now we live stream, we have TV, we're like this, like this all the time. We're so connected and distracted from the world, which is a great blessing. We can connect in so many ways. But in another way, there's a conscious choice time that we are called to set up time to become still, to become present in the moment. Although technology and the access to so many things around the world has changed, news, media, things are always there. Our access to God has never, ever, ever changed. It's always there. But we become distracted, all of us, in so many ways, because there's so much coming at us all the time. So in this kind of loud world lately, I want to invite you into seeing the moments as brand new. That every moment is brand new. I used to say this to a couple of friends in seminary. I'd say, we're in this moment again, and it's all brand new. And Marge would look at me and she'd say, yes, Doug, every moment is new. And I'd say, no, but feel it. Experience it, because so many new opportunities are facing us at every moment, but we get so busy in life, sometimes we miss those precious moments. So let's not let the noise of the world distract us from that beautiful voice of God, which is often speaking in that still small voice, in a whisper, throughout the day, throughout the moments, throughout the connections, the hugs, the people we see right here in the sacred sanctuary. Now, sometimes we follow the advice, or we follow another voice, a voice of media or news or magazines, or maybe even people we know in our lives, maybe that well-intended advice that our friends or family may give us. You know, the other day I was thinking about never being here before as I was coming to San Diego to do this precious ceremony with Kristen and Brian. And I thought, I really haven't been here before. And I started marinating that a little bit. And I thought, sometimes the voices in our head that come up are not necessarily our own. Do you remember those? So my dad's still with us. And what a blessing. But he spent from an early young man to his retirement years working in a refinery. It was Mobile Chemical at the time that became Mobile Exxon. So a plant worker for many years. He was in charge of a lot of safety. So safety in that sort of environment, which came home with him. So growing up, it was, is that safe? Well, I'm going to go out and cut the grass. Is that safe? Do you have on the right shoes? Everything was a safety measure because that's what he was. It was with great care and concern. But now in my adult life, sometimes I'll go do something simple and I'll go, is that safe? Is that okay? That's not really my words. That's Dad's words. And I said this to a lady the other day and she said, you know what? My mom's been gone for 40 years. She said, but I still hear her voice. And I said, well, what do you hear? And she said, every time I come out of the closet and get dressed and look in the mirror, I hear her saying, are you really wearing that? And I said, oh, that's not what I was thinking. But she said, it's true. Sometimes we hear these things and we have to pause and say, now, wait a minute. That's not me. That's a voice I've heard. And if we continue to listening to either the noise of the world or some of those other voices, as loving and well-intended as they may be, we're not paying attention to the still small voice, the voice that rests within us. Sometimes it's a sweet whisper. Sometimes it's a look, a touch, an acknowledgement. God speaks through each and every one of us. So how do I do that? How do you go about that in the day-to-day distractions of life? Something that I do is I wake up in the morning, and here lately while I've been in San Diego, it sure is a beautiful place to wake up to. I wake up and I say, Spirit, what will you reveal to me today? Now, it does a couple of things. It shifts my thinking from the to-do list, the tasks, the things that we do in all of our busy lives. And in ministry, I serve it in the Houston area as a minister, and there's a lot of administrative things going on. But I wake up and I say, Spirit, what will you reveal to me today? Or God, show me something today. Now, that shifts my intention, but it reminds me of a way to take a look, to open up my eyes, open up the eyes of my heart, as Jody was singing so beautifully. And I practice that. What will you reveal to me today, sweet Spirit? And I listen. And sometimes a bird will just go by. And I'll go, oh, noticing the moments, noticing the sweetness. How many of you remember, as an example, this film, The Wizard of Oz, 1937? I believe that would be everyone, right? And have seen it or read the book series over and over and again. We've seen it many times. I did a talk a few weeks ago at my home church, and it was The Wisdom of Oz, in which I did a metaphysical interpretation from all those characters. What a wild ride we went on. I'm not even going to go into the flying monkeys today, but what stuck with me about this scene that you see is the black and white beginning with Dorothy singing that beautiful, sweet, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. That's an endearing song for many of us. Longing for something out there. Sweet, but she's discontent. She's in discontent. She's not satisfied with where she's at. She wants something more in life. Now, her intention, she affirms it, and she lands in Technicolor change, the beautiful, bright Munchkin land, the land of Oz, and she's going down that yellow brick road with all of the characters along the way. But what is she seeking from the time she arrives? Home. Okay, Dorothy, you get there, and then what do you want? She wants to go home, home, home. And what we realize in this alternate universe that this really depicts is that home is truly where the heart is. We know that so well. And all she longed for was to be able to get back to that and see Uncle Henry and Aunt Em in a whole new way. What gratitude her heart opened up when she finally realized, hey, Toto, we're back. And it wasn't geographically Kansas per se. It was paying attention to the moments that are so precious, the moments that often are fleeting with each one of us that we say, hi, how are you? I see you. I see you in this moment. You know, when Dorothy's doing that, something that I was reminded of is that when she's in Kansas longing for something else, But then she gets there and she's longing back home. She's looking forward and reflecting back, and each one of them lacks presence. The now moment. And that's a hard one in our busy lives to do. And the noise, especially the distractions of the world. I wear a little key around my neck. It's a little key that I've been wearing for years that I put on every morning. And it's a key that has a clock with no hands. And it says now. And I do that because I put it on and it reminds me, it centers me into Doug today. Now, now, now. You know, when we grow up, and some of us are still growing up, would you agree? Are we still? What do I want to be when I grow up? When we were kids, you may have been a teacher, and you as an adult may have asked children this, but I bet you all can remember someone asking you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you did that. I want to be, and you came up with something. Well, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And I even have little papers that I wrote like first grade, second grade, because what I knew from a childlike mind was that I wanted to love them well. Now, I love dogs. I still have rescues. I have Sophie at home that I love dearly, and I love horses, and I loved animals, and I knew when my dogs went to the vet, they came home well. So I thought, that's what I want to do. Then as I got a little older and realized Texas A&M University and becoming a veterinarian was so much science and math and the things that they had to do, I thought, maybe not so much my skill set, maybe not so much. But Charles Fillmore wrote that it's the childlike mind that finds the kingdom. It's that internal compass that says, what was it about that? It was the love of animals that really stayed true. So I had a really strong second choice that I would raise my hand and say, but I found out generationally at that time, that wasn't the thing little boys say. And that was, when I grew up, I want to be a teacher. I had great teachers. I had great models in my life. But, you know, I would hear things like, well, that's a girl's job. Did you ever say anything or think of something you want to do and somebody would say, well, that's a boy's or that's a girl's? You remember? So generationally, I started not saying that anymore because it wasn't really supported. Yet the models in my life, you remember those teachers that you had? You could probably think of one or more, and perhaps you've been that teacher that has just shifted and changed your life. I can think of so many. Every year I had a teacher that I just adored, all the way through, still today. And Jesus always represented, even as a young child, a master teacher, a way shower, a guidepost, an example. And I found that sacred connection in that. So years go by, and I'm following that education, that journalism, that teaching background, but I wouldn't say it still. So when I went into college about 17, I said, you know what? I'm going to go into an undecided major, yet I'm going to choose courses that were going along that path. Because my parents were like, teacher, with that look. I'm like, okay, so I'll just do undecided until I can get there. So the counselor says, first off, she gives me the list, and she says, you know what? Here's your course curriculum. I'm like, okay. And then I saw one, and it said Public Speaking 101. I said, okay, wait. What else can I take instead of that? And she said, down any of these paths, there is no way around Public Speaking 101. And I said, okay, I'm a great writer. I can creative write. Can I write my lessons and turn them in and kind of go around the class? She said, no. I said, okay, everyone else must have some sort of a thing with that, so I'll sign up for it. All of us 17, 18-year-old freshmen, I'll go in there. And here's the way she set up the class. 50% of the class, you write about the subject she gives you. The other 50%, the following week, you would get up and you would hold your paper or hold tightly to the lectern or whatever you need to do, and you would speak from it. And you would do this over the term. So I got 50%, got 50%, because every time it was my turn to speak, I would either not show up or go out the back door. Shivering, nausea. Anyone know that public speaking thing? It's one of the biggest fears that I hear. Just couldn't do it. So as the term went on, she called me in and she said, Doug, you're not going to pass the course. And I said, oh, why? Hoping maybe this sweet smile would somehow do it. And she said, 50% is 50%. You haven't spoke any of them. Your papers are great, but you've got to do that. And I started telling her, my stomach, I'm up all night. I can't sleep. I can't do it. And she said, okay, this is extreme, but another beautiful teacher, she said, on the last class if you'll just do this for me. Get up in front of the room, state your name and your major, and say why you're in the class. I'll pass you. Hey, that's a great deal. I took it. And I was pretty well sick the weeks leading up to that. Just couldn't do it. And when it came time, at the back of the lecture hall, she said, Doug, and I got my backpack and went out the back door. And I accepted the F. And academically, we know what F stands for. Failure. I accepted that. And from that point forward, F began to stand for fear. You know the acronym, false evidence appearing real? It so became a leader in my life. Now, I went on many years, corporate real estate, commercial, leading trainings, one-on-one, great. Success, happiness, joy, home, relationship, great dog. Many years go by, and I still had this little piece of something there that I call what was unhealed. Didn't know what it was. And I'm going to take us into a place right now, into Scripture. The story of Elijah in 1 Kings 19:11 through 13. Many of you may know the whole story, and I'm going to give you a snippet of it just as a refresher here. It states, Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. And then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart, shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. And when Elijah heard it, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. And there I want to pause right there. What we see, especially in First Testament or Hebrew Scriptures, we see a lot of big, bold, dramatic text. Notice the difference of the descriptors. The shattered rocks, the wind, the fire, we see all of this, and then it goes into this gentle whisper. Notice the darkness of the cave, Elijah in a cave, but then stepping forward to the mouth of the cave. What does a cave look like to you in your mind? In a more of a dark place and more into the mouth of the cave where you can see what? Light. Elijah, on this long journey that he had been on, running really, got to this point. What we see is both an external, the world, the noise, all the stuff going on around that's very distracting, but then we see this internal. A lot of power, a lot of external power, until the time of surrender. Walking forward, walking to the mouth of the cave. From a metaphysical approach, Scripture like this and our own life experiences, we can see the Lord being the highest state of consciousness. The Lord, the higher self, was not found in all of this rumbling and tumbling about, but yet was found in the gentle whisper, the sweet, the still small voice, the shh, becoming still. All of this external leads him out. Metaphysically, we can see things like wind clearing away, earthquakes opening up, fires representing cleansing. All of these are tools. They're all catalysts. They are all part of the experience. They move us. They shift us from a routine or a pattern into something else. It's kind of like if maybe next Sunday you sat in a different seat. Oh. You know, when you shift, you drive a different way home. You go a different direction. You sit in a different place. Something shifts from the pattern and the routine, and you're opened up into a fresh new moment. You get to experience it. All of that external rumbling and tumbling about led him out to not hear all the loudness, but to hear the whisper. Listening, seeing each other. Elijah's story is our story. He had never been there before in that rumbling and tumbling about. He had never been in that space. He had never been in that cave. He had never moved to the mouth of the cave. It was all new. But he knew in his heart of his heart, and the heart of hearts, he had more to do. For those of you who know the rest of Elijah's story, the rest of it, that there is a succession plan. And I know with the movement that's happening here at Unity Church of El Cajon, as we bless Reverend Brian and Reverend Kristen into their new adventure, God has a succession plan. It's exciting, it's new, it's wonderful. I invite you to lift your hearts up into what that will be. See the moments at every turn. See the precious moments. Look around. Look around. Experience where you're at and feel the blessings of where you're at. Sometimes in life when we are distracted with the loudness of the world, when the God of our understanding seems to be silent, whether we're going through something, relationships, diagnosis, things happen in our life, we see things in the world view, all of the things going on in the world, it can pull us out. And we think, God, where are you in this? If the God of our understanding seems to be silent, we're distracted. It may mean that we have stopped listening. God's always present, always there. Let's each remember to pay attention right here, into the heart space. God is never silent. There's not an end point with God. Elijah had more to do. There's something that is very familiar to you, Reverend Brian, favorite quote. It's on his signature line on the website. Everyone's heard David Hawkins' quote many times. And it's just so perfect right here that the presence of God is available at all times, but awaits our choice. And that's so perfect in that the distractions of the world or the things or the to-do list or all the stuff that we have going on, a church making a move into its next direction to go back into the heart and hear that still small voice beyond the noise of the world. So for the rest of the story, is that Paul Harvey? Paul Harvey, for the rest of the story. More than 20 years later from that 17-year-old boy that walked out of the back of the room, more than 20 years later, corporate America, happiness, life, accolades, awards, portfolios, doing great. 401k savings retirement plan, doing great. But something was still missing. Remember? I said something was still missing. So I found this place called Unity in Houston. I went in. I liked it so much. That feeling of home? Home? Hello, Dorothy. Home. I started taking SEE classes. For those of you, SEE is Spiritual Education and Enrichment courses. And I walked into the very first one, whatever was offered, by Eric Butterworth, Discover the Power Within. I see some nods, classic Unity text. And we were doing some small group sharing, and me and a couple of people were sitting there, and she was asking us about the beginning of the book. And I didn't know really anything about the book, but Discover the Power Within, and I was sharing with my partner there going, discover the power within what? Within me, within you? And we were talking. And then the teacher overheard our conversation. And she was one of those that had a handheld mic. And so she walked over there and she goes, oh, Doug, I like what you're saying. Let the whole class hear this. She presses the button and she does this, and here comes this mic. More than 20 years later, and all of a sudden, broke out in a sweat. I was like, I remembered the 17-year-old boy that walked out of there and recognized false evidence appearing real. And there it was again. And so I moved forward and stood at the mouth of the cave. And I took the mic and I began sharing so much of Eric Butterworth's text, chapters I hadn't even read yet. The alignment was so beautiful. Things from Emily Cady like prove things for yourself. Step out there. Be bold. Do it for yourself to really know and experience the presence of God came forward. It was as if I had sat with Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and written text, and it just started downloading, and that sacred ancient wisdom that resides within all of us flooded forward. And I remember hearing from Luke 12:32, and I think that was the reference from Daily Word today too, and it's beautiful how divine order works. It's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom, and for so long I thought the kingdom was that after party somewhere else. Yet what we know to be true, it's right here, right now. Look around. As Charles Fillmore said, we are decreeing a heavenly experience when we open to gratitude. And light bulb turned on, it all came alive right there. For all the planners in the room, you don't have to admit if you don't want to, but I'm one of them. You can't plan this stuff. You can try to do your to-do list all day long, but when you surrender and fully open up, the divine is revealing a Christ-centered path at all times for each one of us. God's mighty call is upon our lives and present in every moment. If we pause, remember in the busyness, to listen to that sweet, still, small voice. You and I have never been here before, but it's so familiar, isn't it? When we move into our heart space, it becomes so familiar when we just open and listen. It's so comforting. It's so beautiful. I invite you just here for a moment, just to look left, look right, look around at those sitting next to you. Look up. Look around at this sacred sanctuary. Feel the energy of this room and see it. See one another and see this space. Allow it to permeate within your heart. And know and trust the best is yet to be. Reverend Phil Pearson and his wife Dorothy used to say that all the time. The best is yet to be was his tagline, and I love that. Listen, this week, this day, this moment, these months, these weeks to come, I invite you to pause in the moment, in the busyness of life, and pause and breathe. I can't stress how important it is to breathe. Well, you know, if you don't breathe, you'll turn blue and fall over, so we do want to remember to breathe. But you know what I mean, to breathe. Breathe into the beauty of the moment, reminding yourself to peace, be still, and listen to that sweet, sweet, still small voice that resides away from the rumbling, the tumbling, and all the noise of the world. And like Elijah, it's right here. Place your hands on your heart with me for a moment. Right here. Right here. Remember, right here. And right here among each and every one of you. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. I see you. I see the love that my brother Brian has shown me so much through you, through this community. And I see all that's yet to be in this community. And it has been my great honor and privilege and blessing upon my life to be a part of this. Troy and I have just loved every second of it from the wedding forward, just to be a part of you. You have touched and shifted moment by moment my life in great degrees. And I can't wait to share more about this amazing community when I get home. Unity Church of El Cajon. God bless each one of you. Love you so much.